This video is brought to you by Squarespace. From websites and online stores to marketing tools and analytics, Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. Check out Squarespace through the link in the description below. More on them in a bit. My Merriam-Webster dictionary defines a cryptid as an animal that has been claimed to exist but never proven to exist. As a prime example, the dictionary mentions the most famous of all aquatic monsters. Those who have seen it claim that it looks like a giant fish, an elephant, or even an extinct marine dinosaur. It has been known to some as the water horse or the water kelpie. We like to call it Nessie, or the Loch Ness monster, a creature whose very existence we're not yet sure about, despite more than 1,000 sightings, an abundance of photographic evidence, and the ongoing dedication of generations of scientists. Today we're going to explore the peculiar hydrographic features of Loch Ness, or Lake Ness for you non-Scots. We're going to discover its main sightseeing attractions, which are worth a visit even without the involvement of any mythical water creatures. And finally, we're going to learn about arguably the most celebrated cryptid on Earth and how it met with saints, biologists, and inventors. Before we dive into Loch Ness, let's consider some geographical facts, which will give you the edge at the next pub quiz or the next discussion that you have with your know-it-all brother-in-law. The loch is located in northern Scotland, to the south of Inverness. It has a peculiar shape, long and narrow, which may make it look more similar to a river or large canal than a lake. From the town of Loch End at the north end to Fort Augustus at the south, it stretches for about 24 miles. The average width is about 1 mile. These dimensions grant Loch Ness a relatively small surface area of 22 square miles. So if the lake is so small, it should be easy to explore all of it to ascertain once and for all if a monstrous creature really does exist, right? Well, not so fast. We have not yet considered its depth, which is noteworthy. At its deepest point, Loch Ness is 889 feet deep, that's 271 meters. This depth means that the lake can hold 7 billion cubic meters of water, that's 1.5 trillion gallons in imperial measures, much larger than any other body of water in the UK. Add to that the scarce visibility. The bottom of the lake and the shores around its perimeter have a high peat content, which is a dark material that severely impedes underwater sight. Visibility drops to nothing around 30 feet under the surface. This dark zone offers plenty of room for Nessie to hide within. But before we discuss our favourite cryptid, let me give you some more reasons to love Loch Ness for what it is, not what hides within it. First of all, did you know that the loch stands at only 52 feet above sea level, and it's fed by about 40 streams and 8 primary rivers? Who cares, you may ask? Well, we do, because one of these rivers, River Ness, connects the lake to the North Sea. More precisely, it connects to the Beauly Firth. The low elevation and the connection to the North Sea make the loch an important part of the Caledonian Canal, a navigable waterway which connects the North Sea to the Atlantic Ocean. And here is something else to ponder. Whatever beast haunts the depths of Loch Ness, it has access to the open seas. But beyond the hunt for Nessie, there is so much more to experience on the shores of Loch Ness. For example, Orchard Castle alone may justify a trip to the lake. The castle stands roughly halfway along the loch on the western shore. The first written record dates back to 1296, when it was captured by Edward I of England, aka Longshanks, aka Hammer of the Scot, aka the bad guy from Braveheart. In the 15th and 16th centuries, the castle became a frequent battleground for two powerful clans, the MacDonalds and the Grants. The MacDonalds contested the authority of King James IV of Scotland over the Scottish western coast and the Isles, leading several rebellions. King James gifted the castle to the Grants on the condition that they repair and maintain it. The Grants soon found out that maintaining the castle meant fighting bloody sieges against the MacDonalds. So, thank you very much for the gift, King James. Next time a bottle of Macallan and a tin of shortbread would do, thank you very much. The castle was mostly uninhabited in the 17th century and was eventually destroyed in 1692 to prevent it from being used by the Jacobite rebels. These were the supporters of King James of the House of Stuart, the last Catholic king of England and Scotland, who had been deposed in 1688. Several striking remains of the castle are still standing, though. One can visit the Grant Tower, 5 stories high, or the prison cell in which prisoners were kept awaiting trial, sometimes with their ears nailed to wooden beams. Just outside of the village of Drumnadochet, visitors can trek through oak woodlands to reach the 100-foot-high Divach waterfalls. These falls were the biggest attraction during Victorian times before Finding You-Know-Who became a thing. Loch Ness is surrounded by several more waterfalls. Another spot worth a visit in the area is the John Cobb Memorial. This gentleman from Surrey had a passion for motors and speed. He held the land speed record in 1938, which he achieved by travelling 367.91 miles per hour. He broke his own record in 1939, travelling at 394.19 miles per hour. On September 29th, 1952, John Cobb decided to go for the water speed record. He chose a stretch of Loch Ness just off of the castle and piloted Crusader, a boat powered by the engine of a de Havilland fighter plane. On the first run, Cobb zoomed by at 206.89 miles per hour, the first man to ever travel faster than 200 miles per hour on water. On the second run, unfortunately, Crusader hit the wake left by another boat. At that speed, the impact was fatal. The memorial was erected by the people of Glen Urquhart. It reads, "Honour to the brave and to the humble." Leaving the castle behind and heading south along the shore, travellers will reach the picturesque village of Invermoriston. Here one can pay a visit to the holy well of St. Columba. It is said that in the year 565 AD, this holy man travelled to the area to convert a pagan, King Brude of the Picts, to Christianity. On his way, Columba came across a well spouting poisonous water which caused disease and boils in those who drank it. Columba drove out the evil spirits infesting the well, and the water immediately turned pure. It was then considered to have healing properties, especially good for curing infertility, rheumatism, and hangovers. Another legend even claims that the well may be the source of Loch Ness itself. This is not the only tale which connects St. Columba to the Loch. In fact, Columba is the protagonist of the story surrounding the first ever recorded sighting of the Loch Ness Monster. And just before we get into all of that stuff, let me tell you about today's fantastic sponsor, Squarespace. Now, a couple of simple things. Maybe you've got some idea for a website or a business that you want to start going around in your mind, and you're like, maybe people would like that. Well, the only way to figure it out is to get it out there to the world, and you need to do that with a website, and you should do that with a website from Squarespace. Squarespace allows you to create a powerful website for whatever you're up to. You want to sell something online? Sure, do that with Squarespace. Maybe you want to do a podcast. Also great. Maybe you just want to have a blog. I don't know. Do it with Squarespace. It's easy. It all starts on Squarespace with a beautiful template that you can customize to your heart's content, or start from scratch, or just move over from an existing domain. When you get onto Squarespace, everything's just easier to manage. And once you've gone through the customization process of a beautiful template, there are no updates. There are no patches. There's no tech nonsense that you have to deal with. And Squarespace also handles all the website-y stuff, like I say, podcasts, mailing lists, social integrations. It's all on there. And much more. Squarespace will remove the excuses to your dreams, so just go get started. Also, 24/7 customer support in case you get stuck. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/geographics to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain. We've skirted around it for a good third of the video, so now it's time to face the elephant in the room, or should I say the plesiosaurus in the fish tank. What is the Loch Ness Monster? The only way we can answer that is by reviewing the accounts of sightings throughout the ages and picking up whatever clues we may find. Well, we will take it from the very start with St. Columba's encounter. St. Columba was an Irish abbot, missionary, diplomat, poet, and scholar who helped spread Christianity in Scotland. But his resume also included fighting monsters, according to his biography, written by St. Adamnan in the 7th century. On August the 22nd, 565 AD, St. Columba and a group of fellow monks were standing on the bank of the River Ness, the one that flows out of the loch and into the North Sea. Columba was contemplating a question of exquisite theological depth and nuance. How in the heavens am I going to get to the other side? As he ruminated and pondered, Columba came across a group of Picts, a pagan people. The Picts were burying one of their own who had been killed by an enormous aquatic beast while swimming. When Columba heard this story from the mourners, he raised his staff and laid it across the chest of the dead man. The Pict, miraculously, was brought back to life. Now, one miracle a day is enough for most holy men, but not for Columba. He ordered one of his fellow monks, Brother Lugna, to swim across the loch and bring back a small boat which was moored on the opposite shore. The plan was to find a means to cross the loch, but Lugna's swimming alerted the monster. A gigantic, roaring, serpent-shaped creature emerged from the waters and raced towards the monk, ready for his second snack of the day. As everybody cried and screamed in despair, Columba stepped forward to the edge of the loch and, making the sign of the cross, he issued an order to Nessie. "You will go no further. Do not touch the man. Leave at once." The monster was about to swallow poor brother Loch Ness, but at the sound of the saint's words, it stopped and fled the scene in terror. Adam Nan described the monster as moving more quickly than if it had been pulled back with ropes. Nessie vanished into the dark depths of the loch, while brother Loch Ness reached the boat unharmed. On the shore, Christians and pagans alike were astounded by Columba's dual miracle. The Picts hailed the Irish monk and his god and accepted a Christian baptism on the spot in the very waters of the River Ness. Though St. Columba did initially banish the monster to the depths of the loch, it would eventually return to the surface hundreds of times, or at the very least there are hundreds of recorded sightings. Witnesses have generally described the creature as being dark grey or black, looking like an upturned boat, or sometimes like an elephant. In most descriptions, the beast has an elongated body several meters long, which snakes through the water at a speed of 4 to 10 miles per hour. We can't go into the details of every recorded encounter, so we'll just stick to the most significant accounts as compiled by the official Loch Ness Monster Sightings Register. Following the duel with St. Columba, no one reported a meeting with the monster for about 1,000 years. The next sighting happened in 1527 when Duncan Campbell saw a terrible beast on the shore of the loch. The next report of substance came in 1879 when a group of children saw a small head on a long neck on the north shore. The 1879 encounter was the first of a long series of sightings in which locals reported about a water kelpie or a water horse. By this time, the reports were written as if the kelpie was expected to be there, as if its existence didn't surprise or frighten anybody. These experiences so far were mostly relegated to locals. It may be that they were accustomed to the local law or may have had regular encounters with large water creatures, making sightings a normal occurrence. It wasn't until the 1930s that Nessie became a sensation, and stories of its existence circulated all over the world. The Northern Chronicle, on August 27, 1930, reported about a group of fishermen on Loch Ness who had been disturbed by a 20-foot-long creature. But you have to wait 3 years for the legend to properly take off. The Inverness Courier of May 2nd, 1933, reported that a couple from Drumnadroit, the Mackays, had spotted a strange creature in the waters. British national papers and the budding BBC republished the story, giving it a worldwide audience. This is when the term Loch Ness Monster was properly born. So far, no sighting was supported by evidence, only witness accounts. But on November 12, 1933, Hugh Gray, an inhabitant of Foyers, took the first picture of what could be called the Loch Ness Monster. Local paper, the Daily Sketch, published the photo on the 6th of December alongside a notice from Kodak stating that the negative had not been tampered with. At this time, the first footage of the monster was also filmed. Malcolm Irvine, a cameraman for Scottish Film Productions, filmed at USO just opposite Urquhart Castle, moving at about 10 miles per hour. A USO is an unidentified submerged object, by the way, and yes, it is totally a thing. When it comes to capturing Nessie on film, the award for most famous photo goes to Dr. R.K. Wilson. In April of 1934, he took a picture of an object moving in Loch Ness. The photo is, by far, the most reproduced alleged image of Nessie. It shows what appears to be the long, narrow neck and head of a creature emerging from the loch. The photograph, universally known as the surgeon's photo, was published by the Daily Mail, granting nationwide exposure. Alas, the photo was revealed to be a hoax in 1994. What an incredible surprise. It had been concocted by big game hunter Marmaduke Duke Wetherell. In 1933, Duke had been sent to Scotland by the Daily Mail to take a photo of the monster, and he returned with evidence of Nessie's alleged footprints. Zoological experts hired by the Mail exposed the footprints as fake, forged with the embalmed foot of a hippo. Humiliated by the debacle, Duke had built a small-scale replica of the monster, attached it to a toy submarine, and took a photo with the help of his young son and stepson. He then convinced Dr. Wilson to claim he was author of the image to enhance its credibility. During the Second World War, Nessie kept a low profile, but was exploited as a propaganda weapon by both sides. The Luftwaffe, for some reason, claimed to have killed it in an early bombing raid.
Für richtig hältst, ob du glaubst, dass ich fleißig gewesen bin, dass ich gearbeitet habe, dass ich mich in diesen Jahren für dich eingesetzt habe.
The British government took the claim so seriously that it immediately issued reassurances that Nessie remained in good health. Interest in the monster surged again during the 1950s, with many sightings and photographs, but especially thanks to the publication of More Than a Legend by local doctor Constance White. White catalogued over 80 sightings and concluded that the monster was a plesiosaur, a marine reptile extinct in the late Cretaceous period more than 66 million years ago. The beast had missed the memo about extinction. According to White, it had been protected by the isolated landlocked ecosystem of Loch Ness, which is a curious claim considering that the loch is not landlocked. The The plesiosaur theory nonetheless gained traction. It was supported by Dennis Tucker, curator of fishes at London's Natural History Museum. In March 1959, Tucker reported seeing a specific type of plesiosaur called Alamosaurus as it took a swim in Loch Ness. The museum trustees asked Tucker to desist from circulating his theories, but Denny's would not listen. He believed his theory to be corroborated by the so-called Dinsdale film. On April 3, 1960, Nessie hunter Tim Dinsdale filmed a dark object moving across the loch. From his vantage point in the village of Foyers, he captured the object as it moved parallel to the far shore. In 1965, the film was sent to the Joint Air Reconnaissance Center, who studied the film and sent a report to Tim Dinsdale. According to him, the report seemed to substantiate this as a genuine sighting. But according to critics, the report stated that the object was probably just a small fishing boat filmed in bad light conditions. In the same year, 1965, Loch Ness was visited by an assistant biochemistry professor from Chicago University, Roy McCall. McCall became a Nessie believer and joined the Loch Ness Phenomenon Investigation Bureau, or LNPIB, a large-scale operation which used advanced military and scientific technology to search for evidence of the monster. McCall helped raise funds for the LNPIB and developed another theory. Nessie was a giant amphibian, similar to the Agrogranus, extinct in the Carboniferous period more than 300 million years ago. Tucker and McCall were very serious about their claims, releasing publications and delivering lectures. Unfortunately for them, their respective employers were not amused, and both academics were eventually sacked. The experience of these two scientists did not deter further researchers from finding the truth about Nessie, though. One of them was Robert Rines, a lawyer and inventor who had patented a high-resolution radar during World War II. Armed with underwater cameras, Rines took several puzzling pictures from 1972 to 1975. One of them shows a diamond-shaped flipper attached to a rough-surfaced body. Various zoological experts stated it to be the rear appendage of a large, unknown aquatic animal. Two more enigmatic photographs showed what appeared to be the long neck and face of a plesiosaur-like creature. Ryan's photographs soon created at least a few new converts. First, Peter Scott, head of the World Wildlife Fund. It was him who created the formal scientific name, Nessoteras rhombopteryx, or the wonder from Ness with the diamond-shaped fin. Another convert was Dr. David Davies, editor of Nature, the world's most prestigious scientific journal. On December 11, 1975, Davies published Rhines's flipper photograph on the cover of Nature. And yet, these endorsements failed to convince the scientific community that the Loch Ness monster was worth some serious consideration. Angry scientists bombarded Davies' office with complaints. To them, Nature had lowered the standards of British science by publishing such nonsense. Somebody even pointed out that Nessoteras rhombopteryx was an anagram of monster hoax by Sir Peter S. This is something Sir Peter Scott announced as an unfortunate coincidence. Up to this date, the monster is sighted, photographed, or filmed on a regular basis. But if you want to try your luck but don't feel like travelling to Inverness, you can access a permanent live feed of the loch's surface at lochness.co.uk/livecam. For many years, the scientific community and Nessie hunters stood in opposite corners, ready to slug it out, rhetorically and metaphorically, of course. Then, the University of Otago, New Zealand, surprised both factions when they announced the latest project of Professor Neil Gemmell. A team of geneticists, starting in May 2018, would collect and catalogue more than 500 million DNA samples from the waters of Loch Ness. By analysing these DNA sequences, Gemmell and his team seem to have completely ruled out the plesiosaurus theory or any other plausible speculation that Nessie may be the last remnant of a long-extinct species. He stated, "We can't find any evidence of a creature that's remotely related to that in our environmental DNA sequence data, so we don't think the plesiosaur idea holds up based on the data we have." The team from Otago tested other theories which posit that Nessie may be a giant fish, an abnormally large sturgeon, shark, or catfish. Again, no DNA evidence was found for these species. What Gemmell did find is a large amount of eel DNA present at every location sampled by his team, and a giant eel may explain many of the sightings. It would be consistent with reports of elongated, dark bodies snaking their way at an average speed of 4 miles per hour. The fishermen among you may argue that freshwater eels measure an average of 20 inches in length. However, conger eels living in the seas around Britain can easily surpass 3 feet in length, and those are the average ones. The big ones could easily take on a shark if they're in a bad mood. In May 2015, for example, a fisherman in Plymouth caught a conger eel measuring almost 19 feet in length and weighing 130 pounds. But even that beast is a wimp compared to the largest ever recorded conger eel, a fantastic fish weighing 350 pounds, caught off Iceland's Westman Islands. Professor Gemmell did not mention conger eels in his report, and he doesn't confirm that giant eels may be the answer to a 15th-century-long puzzle. He does, however, admit that the theory is possible. Are there giant eels? Well, our data doesn't show their size, but the sheer quantity of the material says that we can't discount the possibility that there may be giant eels in Loch Ness. We need to investigate more to confirm or deny the theory. As long as the mystery of the monster remains unsolved, Loch Ness will remain a location of great relevance, both on our maps and in our imagination. What is it about this monster that fascinates us so much? In fact, what is it about monsters in general that fascinates us? I'll borrow a definition of a monster from the philosopher Foucault. The monster is the transgression of natural limits, the transgression of classifications. Foucault also describes how each epoch evidences a particular type of monster. In other words, each historical period will focus or fixate on the type of monster it needs, the monster it deserves. Let's go back to Nessie now. Except for 2 sightings dating to the pre-industrial era, the interest for the Loch Ness monster really blossomed only after 1879. Perhaps that is the reason for our romance with this creature. In an epoch of fast technological development and industrialization, we needed to witness a primordial monster that defied human expertise. We need to believe in a beast that transgresses natural limits and classifications. In an age in which species go extinct every day, we like to believe in a creature that has challenged extinction for millennia. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that thumbs up button below. Don't forget to check out our fantastic sponsor for this episode, Squarespace. They are linked to below. And thank you for watching.